Taoiseach, I presume you are familiar with the research produced by Daft.ie. Crisis in the rental market worsens, and it's an extraordinary set of figures that have been produced, which really goes to the heart of undermining social cohesion in our society and also causing wider problems in terms of inward investment, in terms of preparing for that, and in terms of the quality of life for many people in our cities and indeed across the country. In short, rents have soared by more than 1,350 over the year to an all-time high over the last 12 months. By more than 1,350. Average rents now nationwide are at about €1,077. In Dublin, the rates have gone up 12%. Our rents, have gone up 12%. Louth, 15%. Meath, 15.8%. Kildare, 13%. So the whole commuter belt, very significant rent increases. Cork, 14%. Galway, 11%. Limerick, 13%. Waterford, 11%. And so on. They're the largest rent increases ever recorded by Daft.ie since reports began in 2002. So this is an extraordinary crisis facing many people in our society. And over the last number of years, government really has been bereft of any response to this growing and worsening crisis. And the impacts of it are stark. They're disastrous, as Ronan Lyons, the economist in Trinity, who compiles the report, made the point. It's disastrous for social cohesion and indeed in terms of Irish competitiveness. So one wonders, in terms of the public pay demands and pay rise demands in general, a lot of it is connected to costs that people have in their everyday lives. And for people working in Dublin and in cities and elsewhere, rents now is probably the most significant cost facing them. And that's feeding into the demands on the pay side, which will feed into our competitiveness. The big issue coming out of Brexit, where there might be some silver lining, is our capacity to attract inward investment. But that is now problematic because of the housing situation and because of the high level of rents in terms of making our cities attractive to bring investment from such financial services companies in. It's also exacerbating the homeless crisis, because what has happened, the Kelly reforms, if I may use that phrase, haven't worked, and in fact many landlords turfed out existing tenants, brought in new tenants and dramatically increased the rents. So that hasn't worked. So homelessness is a further casualty in terms of the rental situation. And we now have the incredible position where many young couples are trapped in the rental market. It's now actually cheaper to service your mortgage, to buy a house, than it is to rent a house.
Thank you, Deputy.
But because of the central bank rules and so on like that, you have many young couples now who are trapped in the rental situation, can save to get the necessary amount to get a mortgage. So, Taoiseach, what does the government propose to do here? And
thank you, Deputy. Time's up.
The report points to the need to deal with construction costs, particularly in the apartment sector, as one way of dealing with this.
Taoiseach.
There is no doubt but that this is a problem, and it's a serious problem, and it's one that's exacerbated by the situation that has applied over the last number of years, where you've had an inadequate supply of housing. And that's why the central focus of the Housing Action Plan being brought forward and being implemented now by the Minister for Housing is to increase the supply of houses, which will therefore create more opportunities for people to get housing, get accommodation, and therefore lessen this increased rent situation that is a real problem for numbers of people. It's accepted, Deputy, that there are acute pressures in the rental market now, and that is one of the focus areas of the 5 pillars of the housing programme being put together by the Minister, to help families meet their needs, to deal with those who are ranging from rough sleepers to homeless people, to those who are in hotel rooms and bed and breakfast and so on, those young couples who are not able to avail of an opportunity to get their own house. So I've already said in the House here, the private rental strategy will be brought forward by the Minister for Housing in the next couple of weeks here. He's already started a serious consultation process with a wide range of people dealing with the housing and the rented sectors They've been invited to attend and to contribute to the strategy, and that will focus on 4 key areas, Deputy: on security, which will bring greater security to landlords and tenants; on supply, which will maintain existing levels of rental stock and encourage investment in additional supply; on standards, in improving the quality and the management of rental accommodation; and fourthly, on services, in broadening and strengthening the role and the powers of the PRTB to more effectively provide their services and to both empower tenants and landlords. And that has to include a measure in respect of for tenants and landlords alike. We'll see a number of improvements in place before the year end, which will have to be legislatively based, new measures to ensure that tenancies remain in situ where a landlord proposes to sell more than 20 units in a single development, as we've had experience of this already, Count Corla. Secondly, enhanced enforcement and dispute resolution powers for the Residential Tenancies Board, and revised standards of accommodation in the rental sector, with new regulations to be finalised in the next couple of weeks. So the overarching objective of the strategy for the rental sector, which will be in place by the end of the year, will be to increase supply, to support the development of a stable, strong and viable rental sector, offering more choice for households, investment opportunities for providers, and reflecting both the rights and the responsibilities of both tenants and landlords.
Deputy Martin, you have 1 minute.
But Taoiseach, it's not today or yesterday that this began. I mean, the government of which you have been a member for the last 2 to 3 years have been dithering on the rent issue. There's been nothing coming from you. And indeed, Minister Coveney was with Minister Kelly and so on. Sorry.
Can we have order, please?
Sorry, if I may. And the key point, Taoiseach, in the daft.ie report, actually, he identifies the cost of building apartments as a major problem on the supply side, and that it's a way beyond our incomes, and it's a way beyond costs in other societies. And that's one aspect that the government hasn't dealt with: the cost of building and building costs, which is a significant factor in restricting the supply of apartment developments and so on across the country. And the other point is, Taoiseach, bringing vacant properties back into use. If you look at the CSO preliminary census, thousands and thousands of houses across the country are vacant, both in the private and in the public. The 200,000. Incredible figures. And there is no strategy to incentivise them back into the market. And those are practical areas that progress can be made, but nothing has happened. And why has it taken so long to have a comprehensive private rental strategy, given the problems over the last number of years?
I absolutely agree with you. I fully agree with you, Deputy Martin. As you said, it's not today or yesterday that this began. You're right. Remember Priory Hall, remember the Pyrite homes, remember the ghost estates, remember the 100,000 who left the country because of the collapse of the financial services and because of the collapse of the construction sector. That's why, and that's where it happened. There was a Taoiseach that stood over here and said we need no more taxes anymore because the construction sector is going to drive the whole lot for us. Remember that? And stunted the market completely. And that's the reason for it, and you know that very well. So if you can't deal with supply, then you cannot deal with the upward pressure that's there on rents. And I agree that we need landlords and tenants in here. We have to do something in respect of the cost of building. That's why the Minister put up 200 million for the opening up of sites that are currently not accessible to local authorities or private builders. Secondly, if you build apartments, you have to build them all before you can sell them. It's different than the traditional thing of building 100 houses and sell them on as you went, make your profit and continue on with that. But the rental strategy, Deputy, will be in here before Christmas. We had a Cabinet subcommittee just this week, and Minister Coveney is working very hard to bring that in here, and I hope that everyone will give their views. We need security for the tenants. We also need responsibility for the landlords, longer-term leases, so that people can have that sense of security for the time ahead.